Do you really know just how heavy 24 hours of metal music really is? About the weight of your mobile phone. Download our free andrewhogue.com iPhone and Android apps now. That way, you'll never be far away from us. Andrew Hogue for andrewhogue.com, Australia's first and only dedicated 24/7 rock metal radio station, here with the wonderful folks from PUSCIFER. Of course, on their Money Shot Australian tour, we do have Matt, Carina and Maynard. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
Alrighty, well, we're going to get into some Q&A from a lot of the fans, thanks to the folks at Destroyalllines. I guess we'll go with the opening question from Stephen Morris in Adelaide. He's written here, instead of the artsy and wine questions, I'd like to know, how is everyone feeling? Was the flight nice? And are you enjoying Australia so far? Is everyone feeling good, healthy and happy to be here?
Yes.
Yes. It was nice to have an overnight flight and land at 7:30 in the morning. That helped a lot.
And it's nice to get away from winter time to summertime.
It was nice to land it directly in Mona.
Mm-hmm.
And stay there for 3 days. So yeah.
Very good. Well, everyone seems to be ready to rock and roll. Of course, let's go with this one. Now I'm going to apologise to some of the fans who have sent in their questions, because some of the surnames I'm not going to pronounce that well. So let's go with Adam Bianinski. Hope I got it right. If I haven't, apologies, from Adelaide. Your recent shows have a very lucha libre vibe. Where did the inspiration come from, and how does it feed into the music you're playing on these tours?
Well, I'd tell you, but then I'd have to let you know. A lot of it just comes from the Southwest. That's where a lot of the music written. That's our setting. It's part of the vibe throughout the Southwest. We're right next to Mexico. But mainly, truth be told, it comes from a Christmas card that was sent out by Tim Caliente, good friend of ours from Barton Pereira, also a photographer. And he sent out a Christmas card with our friend Chris Lisk dressed as Santa Claus as a lucha, and his two kids dressed as luchas beating the shit out of Santa in a ring, a wrestling ring. So I saw that and went, yeah, there's our next 3 years. Let's just build on that stupid Christmas card. I'm not kidding.
We'll go with this one from Christie Peters in Brisbane. What's the one PUSCIFER song that touches you deeply when you perform it, and why?
Carina?
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, but I have to, right now I probably have to go with the two of them. One of them is Augustina, which, of course, I assume that you wrote about your daughter.
Some other daughter named Augustina.
And meeting her. And another one called Horizons, which I'm assuming, I can never really tell, but I think it's quite self-explanatory, that you wrote about the death or the loss of your mother. No?
No?
No. And,
but you can just remove mother from the equation and it works.
Yeah, death or loss, and something that I've experienced recently. So that one is pretty moving to me right now.
How about you, Matt?
Autumn.
Mm-hmm.
Similar reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be mine.
And Vagina mine.
Great track.
And mine would be Balls to the Wall.
Mm-hmm.
Not an accept cover.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go with
Just me in funny places.
Let's go with Michael Welsh from Adelaide. How would you best describe the sound and aesthetic of PUSCIFER?
I think it's kind of where digital and live meets, that heartbeat. We all kind of move to a clock, whether you will admit it or not. We're all kind of tied into some kind of metronome, sunrise, sunset, the calendar in general. So those movements that you make to that daily rhythm, I feel like digital isn't nearly as cold and calculated as some people claim it to be. I think that the intersection, the interaction between the digital and the living, breathing can be inseparable, and that's kind of where we exist, right on that collision course. I just made that shit up.
Yeah.
You like it?
I like it.
Okay, let's do a different answer. PUSCIFER is rooted directly in Añejo tequila.
Uh-huh.
Shaken, not stirred. Your turn. Your turn.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I just, I think the aesthetic in itself is whatever the. Can I swear? Whatever the fuck these two decide probably while they're drinking Añejo tequila for the most part, or whatever Christmas cards they read, and and then, Matt of course has a lot to do with the digital music, and these two come together and have like strange seances about whatever is inspiring in that moment, and it seems to be. The recording process is a little bit of a, I don't want to say free-for-all, but it feels sometimes a little bit of a free-for-all in that there's a lot of members to this group and they all have freedom to do what they do best on the record freely. And, it ends up being, like you say, like the word intersection or collaboration between the strengths of the different members, and the sound is a cumulative thing from that, and it can end up going in a lot of different directions.
That leads to Chris Murphy's question from Melbourne. He's written here that given that yourself, Maynard, and Carina have traditionally sung solo, how did you find adapting to writing tracks like The Remedy with multiple singers, and was it a collaborative or written by one party for the other?
Generally speaking, the vocals are going to come from me until I hit a wall. Last couple albums, if I just hit a spot where I could solve this puzzle, but if you're under the gun, a little bit for timing, or just are running dry on approaches or ideas, it's always best, I think, to hand it off to someone like Carina, because she's going to come up with a different approach completely. It's going to give it another dimension, another breath of life, rather than me just kind of repeating myself in terms of solutions.
Does that help you sort of let go of the control, knowing that you can offer it to somebody else as well to sort of continue the puzzle?
Well, it's a matter of trust, really. Yeah. I mean, I've worked with a lot of people over the years that are very technical and very good at what they do, but they're not necessarily creative. The creative force, that kind of idea wellspring, is where some of the best music comes from, not from guys who, no disrespect to Joe Satriani, but like those kind of very, very technical, learned, schooled players, I think a lot of times they lack humanity. There's not a lot of breath that comes out of the music that I hear from, I don't want to say educated, because that doesn't really, indoctrinated. Indoctrinated musicians tend to be a little stiff, I think. That not free form, but living, breathing interaction with mistakes, with not necessarily perfect approaches, that tends to give it the character that melds really well if you do it right. Melds well with the digital. Again, going back to that.
Well, speaking of digital, because obviously we are in the digital age with everyone using so much different software and stuff in studios. Matt Davis has written here, while recording PUSCIFER material, do you use a large amount of analog devices, or is the majority of production work completed digitally?
Yes, to all of that.
Yeah, there's, we use the strengths of all of it, and we use everything. If it's a good piece of gear and it's inspiring, it's all an instrument, and we try to use the best digital has to offer and the best analog.
Do you think audiences can tell? I mean, we're kind of sort of controlled now in the digital realm, and I'm sure not everyone can understand the analog side, especially the newer generations who probably aren't familiar with that sort of stuff. How do you feel you can capture a lot of the analog inspiration in some of these recordings?
Well, I mean, even if the results sounded exactly the same, I think what inspires you? Yep. If you're inspired to sit in front of a piece of software and click around, then that's great. If you're inspired to twist knobs and move sliders, then that's great too. I think a lot of those choices are based on what's inspiring at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, like, a lot of the stuff, I think on some level, you had arguments, century ago about photography not being an actual art form because you just point the camera and push the button and it captures the art. Well, we all know that's fucking bullshit. There's a human interaction. It's where humanity meets the inanimate object and the relationship that comes from that, and what you see and how you adjust how you see. You can give 12 kids a camera and have them take a photo. They're all going to be very different, even in the same room with the same objects. Be very different expressions using that machine. So it's not like the music writes it. Not like the music's being written for you by a machine. There's an interaction. Anybody sitting down with a garage band or Logic is going to come up with a completely different set of sounds, even though it's from one particular program. It's that interaction. It's the storyteller.
Now we'll go with this question here. Daniel Stojewski, apologies Daniel if I got your surname incorrect, he's from Sydney. Your song Humbling River has left me in a profound and beautiful state of being. I ask, where do you go within yourself or outside yourself to get such inspiration for lyrics of such songs?
I can't really pass that one to you guys.
But I like the question.
Yeah, fuck you. I don't know. I think a lot of, like with anything, there's lyrics come from a place of experience. They also, if you understand emotions in general, putting words together in certain orders can evoke a particular reaction. I guess the hard part is, I think you can formulate that, but it won't feel sincere.
It'll be authentic.
Yeah, there's an authenticity to understanding emotions and being able to express them in an accurate way, and as opposed to an honest way. Of course, as artists, we've always strived to express them in that honest way. Yeah, I don't know.
One thing I thought was kind of unique about that song was one of the trips, came to Arizona and we're hanging out and we were going to write, and you're like, I got these lyrics I want to lay some music down to, and I was like, I got this music, honey. I was like, I got this thing that might work, and it was that was one of those songs. Like 2 hours later, it was 90% done.
Yeah.
Which is kind of unique, and it was like percolating, ready to happen.
Which is, it's hard for someone who's a non-songwriter or a non-winemaker or a non-chef to truly grasp what that process looks like. If you put all the pieces on the table, it wouldn't make any sense until you actually hear the finished product. So that process, it varies. We have far more complicated songs that took far less time to write because they fell into place because of our experience, and we could see where this could go. It's just simple architecture, really. These angles work, and here's the result. Others that seem extremely simple, like if you like Italian food, cacio e pepe is a very simple Italian pasta dish that is not done right very often because it's so simple. It's just pasta, pepper, and pecorino cheese and hot water, basically. It's hard to get that right. Same with a simple song. There are a bunch of really awesome simple songs that were inspired by, but I bet they were far from easy, because we've had the simple ones that are more difficult. Mama said I wanted to throw the fucking tapes out the window. It took forever to get it right.
That was not al dente?
It was not fucking al dente.
Well, this sort of flows into the next question here. Christian Saunders has written, do you still get that chill up your spine when you discovered a new melody, rhythm or flow to a song you've already written, when it all just sort of clicks together? Because obviously when things intertwine, sometimes you hear channeling the guitar but not the bass, and then eventually some days you hear channels into the bass and you go, wow. Do you guys still get that kind of feeling when you play some of these songs live, when you hear a melody that you probably haven't focused on at one point because you're listening to another section or something like that?
I suppose.
Yeah, I know I do when we're writing, and I've written this thing kind of expecting it to go a certain way, and then he'll come in and start singing, and I'm like, oh, that's, it's like, I thought it was going this way.
Yeah.
How did it get over here? And then,
That's happened a few times. Too.
and I really like those moments because it challenges you to then, how do you weave it all together?
Yep.
Well, especially if you have an idea and it just seems like a just insane, crazy idea, and I'm trying to actually get it on tape in a manner that he can eventually see what the hell I'm talking about. And Grand Canyon's a perfect example of like, where the fuck is he going with this? I could see it on his face, like, okay, I guess we'll do this until you come back and tell me this is stupid, let's move on.
We had to pretty much, like, we were using graph paper to draw that one out, like,
Yeah.
okay, and then we do this, and then, like...
I mean, the one thing that hit me about this band when I first joined was just the openness to change even within a song. The first tour we did together was 3 nights, and each night was the same set with completely different arrangements of all the songs. Live arrangements with a different band setup.
Just improvise? You guys give each other sort of
No.
a heads
No,
up
we would
beforehand?
We actually rehearsed
No, we
with
actually
3
rehearsed
separate
different-
groups of people.
And I find a lot, with different musicians and bands, sorry to stop,
You're fine.
there's, a lot of people get really precious about what the song is supposed to be, and it's supposed to be like the record and all of that, and there was none of that. It was just a complete turning on its head and almost deliberate tearing apart of that idea, and I also experienced that a little bit, not so much live with this record, but in the studio. There's always the chance that you'll come back the next day and the song will be completely different, like a different song.
Whoops.
And there's always, but it's never a traumatic moment. It's always, if it's better, then it's fine, or if it feels good, it's great, and you keep working on it, wherever it's at, and it can turn into something completely different. But there's a real freedom and openness about that. And it's very inspiring, very scary.
Well, speaking of inspiration, let's go with Deidre Morris's question from Melbourne. Of the many artists and musicians who passed away last year, which was the biggest influence on you? We'll start with you on this one, Maynard.
I think just, not to point to a specific artist, I think just in general, that being at that age when we're seeing a lot of people flee the scene in a way is inspiring for me. I know a lot of people feel like the universe is coming apart at the seams and strange things are happening, and on some metaphysical level people are choosing to bail. I'm kind of a stubborn prick. I want to see what happens. So if in fact the universe is unraveling, I want to be there to chronicle it, so it's, somebody can tell the story of what happened. If that's, that's if we make it. But I think part of last year's chaos and a lot of seemingly more significant numbers of departures last year. Well, time will tell. We'll look at 2010 all the way through 2020 and see if 16 was in fact the winner loser for that number. But all it did in me was just solidify my resolve to do stuff. Just don't stop doing things.
Yeah.
About you, Carina? Anyone that sort of springs to mind for you that might have influenced you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, for me personally, the person that had the biggest influence throughout my life was David Bowie, and the biggest shock that I felt when he left. Just to that feeling all of a sudden of there's something missing from my life that's been there my entire life that I took for granted my entire life, and then looking at his body of work, realizing, as you're old enough to, just the absolute relentlessness to just be a pure artist throughout his entire career. And, of course, Prince was around my entire life too, but he didn't start becoming a big thing to me until a lot later. And Leonard Cohen, when I became a songwriter and a lyricist, became important and an inspiration. But for the most part, the one that's in my DNA is Bowie.
Yeah. How about you, Matt? Anything that springs to mind?
I mean, yeah, for individuals, probably Bowie, and also kind of touching on what Maynard was saying, it's more from just as an overall thing. It's kind of that nudge in the back to like, like,
Time is short, time's ticking.
Yeah, you gonna step up or shut up, kind of thing. Yeah, because life is precious and it's short, and yeah, what are you gonna do with it?
Yep. Let's go with this one from Elise Bocanafuso. Hope it's correct, from Sydney. Are there any musical collaborations you'd like to do in the future? Anybody spring to mind that you'd like to possibly consider working with, either individually or with PUSCIFER?
Steve Martin.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Satriani.
Gotta patch that one up.
Dr. Dre.
Sebastian fucking Bach.
That would actually be
That
fun.
probably wouldn't be that difficult.
I was watching Sebastian Bach YouTube videos recently.
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, yeah.
Because his voice is awesome.
18 of
How about when
life.
he's singing?
Yeah.
We'll go with Corey Masden from Melbourne. All the PUSCIFER albums were accompanied by remix albums. There's also a lot of electronic use within the PUSCIFER itself. Would you consider doing a pure electronic side project, or would any of you want to do more sort of collaborations with electronic artists?
Maybe that'd be more on your tip.
I think these days, almost everybody's an electronic artist.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, for me, I don't really think about.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see
just more
you
organic,
use
like-
electronic stuff is not, all of your stuff on the record that you play, that's what might sound or seem, digital or electronic, is actually analog
Yeah.
synth. And it's not an acoustic instrument, but it's still analog, and it's still, he still has to get into it and feel it to play the instrument. And
I think the easiest way to work with, collaborate with those kind of so-called, digital artists would be just to hand them hard drives of stuff that we've already done. There's so much to draw from for an artist to just basically do their own version of a rework.
And that's kind of what the remix records are.
Yeah, kind of, but
Right.
I think he's thinking more in terms of, if I can read into the person's question, like an actual collaboration of new material, but nowadays
But I mean, wouldn't Josh be
people are just
considered
hearing
an
of
EDM
PUSCIFER in
artist?
Australia, so I guess that would be new
Probably.
material. Here's our remix album.
Yeah, I mean, there's being collaborators in PUSCIFER that are being considered electronic
Yeah.
artists, EDM artists. Yeah, there's no confines, really.
Okay, we'll go with Kev Gray from Melbourne. PUSCIFER have done a brilliant cover of Bohemian Rhapsody. Is there any other songs in the future that you would consider covering in the near or distant future?
No!
Matt?
I'm just going to go ahead and say no.
Satriani covers?
And it's like, it's funny you should ask.
And that's when I'll have to put his foot down and says, guess what we're doing next, guys?
Sebastian Bach cover?
Bohemian Rhapsody was one of those. He kept mentioning it, and we're like, yeah, that's funny. Hoping that he would like forget, or that, or he would get bored with it and move on, and it just wasn't going away and wasn't going
Grandpa
away.
does not forget.
And then it was just one of those like, we have to do it so he'll stop talking about it. So it was fun, and it was
Then, do you remember then when he was like, we need to figure out a way to do it live?
Oh
I
yeah.
could see him, like, his soul-crushing statement. Now let's do it live.
It's like 3 people that sing in the band.
It was a fun experiment.
Well, this one goes to you, Maynard, from Jason Barrett. What is your favourite Australian wine?
Nice try, Jason. Mr. Barrett,
Someone let that through.
Terracotta's sense of compression, prick. There's your answer.
Alrighty, well, obviously we're on the current tour for PUSCIFER here, the Money Shot Tour. What's sort of final words to fans out there?
Well, if you love music, you have, I think there's a big Grand Canyon between what used to happen with people supporting music and the entitlement, the age of entitlement that we're living in now. I think if you really truly want to have projects like this, because this is not just a band, there's a lot going on, a lot of moving parts. The stage presentation is something that if you can just get off your lazy butt and come see it, I think you'll actually be, you'll be pleasantly surprised, and it's something you'll want to share with your friends. So if you want music to come around in this manner, you want to see people come from other countries, you have to support it like any other art. You have to nurture art. If you want to develop a scene in your town for bands to come through, you have to show up. You have to show up. Even if you're not even sure you're going to like it or not, you have to put the time in and the support in to show artists that you are willing to be there for them to come as far as we've come, quite a long ways, to be here to show you what we've got. So support, and never mind international acts, support local music. Just support.
All right, you, Carina, any couple last words?
No.
Okay. And you, Matt?
I can't follow that up.
For example, I would have gone to see
Shut up.
PJ Harvey last night had I known that she was playing.
It was the greatest show I've ever seen. Sorry, I'll make it up to you.
Uh-huh.
Alrighty, thank you so much for your time and all the best on the Australian tour with PUSCIFER.